Erdelyi Brian vagyok, és magyar és kanadai állampolgár vagyok, de Kanadában születtem. Nagyon sajnos, angol az az anyanyelvem, és most beszélek angol. So one of the first things that I get asked when I'm here in Debrecen is, why am I here in Debrecen? You might have gathered from the name, my father was born in Hungary, and I happen to have both dual citizenship, and I happen to have a home here in Hungary as well. Oh, the big one, a nagy gomb. Left and right. There we go. Technology works sometimes. So I've been very fortunate to be working in IT for almost 30 years now. 25 years I've been working strictly in cybersecurity. Actually, I didn't even mention here, this is actually a photo of my father in Canada, and this is a photo of my Nadmama in Canada. She used to come and visit every year. Sadly, my father passed away just over a year ago here in Debrecen. He was born in Kisvárda, but he also lived in Canada quite a bit of his life since coming to Canada. But back to why I'm here. So I've been in cybersecurity for 25 years. I've had the fortune of working and living in many countries, like all across Canada, the US, Saudi Arabia, including Bermuda, and I'm back in Bermuda again now working with a bank that services digital asset businesses. Most of my experience is in banking, payments, as well as blockchain and digital assets now. I've actually been involved. I'm very much a technologist. I'm a geek. I like the technology. I started getting involved in Bitcoin back in 2011. But I didn't really stick with it. But I understood how it worked. And then I had a client of mine. I was living in Virginia, which is where I met my wife actually. And that's actually why we're here. It was actually much easier for us to stay here in Hungary rather than Canada or the US because of COVID. That's one of the things that brought us here. It was just easier for us to be here together. But one of my clients had asked me back in 2017, it was Philip Morris, they said, Brian, what can we use blockchain for? And I did a research project for them, and I started looking at the use cases, and I started investing a little bit in digital assets. And that's actually how I was able to buy a home here in Hajdú-Szabadszló with some of the profits from that. But I'm not here to give any investment advice. I'm here really just to talk about the technology. And you may have heard of some of the other digital assets that exist. This is actually kind of like Bitcoin 2.0. This is a growing trend with stable coins. One of the biggest criticisms of digital assets is how volatile they are. They go up and down drastically every day. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. But if you wanted to just save your money and store it somewhere, stable coins is one of the use cases for that. One of the things that Bitcoin promised back in 2008, I think is when it first started, was this idea of electronic and decentralized money. That wasn't how it became used. It became used as a form of investment, which is great. But now with the use of stable coins, we're starting to see more uses which are about using it as money, as a form of currency. A lot of financial companies are starting to look at doing settlements with a stable coin, and I'm going to talk briefly about what a stable coin is. They're also looking at doing payments with a stable coin, being able to buy goods and services with a stable coin. And one of the first points here that I say is that not all stable coins are created the same. How many people know about stable coins or Luna or Terra? All right, so one of the big things that happened not long ago was you would think something that's stable, how can it drop in value so rapidly? Or is it safe that it can't drop in value? Well, what we learned with Luna is that some of them can. Luna was backed by other digital assets, and they had a mechanism that would adjust the supply of the digital assets that they had in reserve. And eventually what happened, there were some questions about the reserves and the value of those digital assets. The value started to go down, and the stable coin became worthless almost overnight. It lost about 95% of its value overnight. But that's one type of stable coin. That is something that is backed by other digital assets. Some other stable coins can be backed one-to-one with what's referred to as a fiat currency, the traditional currencies that everybody's familiar with, maybe a US dollar, maybe a euro, and we're even going to talk about a potential stable coin backed by the Hungarian forint, which is something I'm working on as a bit of a project. That's going to be the next slide. But actually, I have a photo here of a scale, and you'll see on the left-hand side of the scale there's some money, and on the right side of the scale is the digital asset. And this is really just to represent how the value of the stable coin is meant to be stable. It's meant to be equal with whatever the reserve is that is backing that stable coin. So I mentioned there's different types of stable coins. I mentioned Luna. That's one that is backed by digital assets. The other concept is something that is backed by a fiat currency. So the concept is you give me 1 or 100 forints, 100 hoof, and I would give you 100 digital hoof as a stable coin, and that money would be held in a reserve so that at any time somebody could redeem those digital assets for the underlying currency. So that is something that's happening now. Even recently there has been, does anybody know what's happened with Binance US dollar, the BUSD? I see some heads nodding. That was actually something that started happening this week. Binance has a US dollar stablecoin that is under investigation by the SEC in the US, which is the Security and Exchange Commission in the US, and they are insisting that stablecoins might be a security and subject to securities regulations in the US. So that's still unplaying right now. That's unfolding right now. The regulations I have up here, this is where a lot of countries are starting to adopt regulations. Thomas mentioned, and I mentioned, I'm working in Bermuda. Bermuda is very friendly towards digital asset businesses. And the reason why is because they have regulations. There is too much uncertainty in the United States around what's allowed and what's not allowed. But countries like Bermuda, even in Europe, there is a regulation called Markets in Crypto Assets, or MiCA. You might have heard it as. These are very good things because it helps bring some clarity to what is allowed and what is not allowed. And when people know what's allowed, the businesses will go to those jurisdictions. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now in a lot of countries. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to wrap it up with a project that I'm working on, and that is a wallet. I've actually created a payment wallet that uses a stable coin. And it's a non-custodial wallet, if that means anything to people, which means the assets are yours. You hold the keys. Not your keys, not your cheese, is one of the sayings. But one of the things we're trying to do, or we're going to organize an event, a private event, where I want to actually test out the wallet and allow people to pay for their drinks with a Hungarian stablecoin. So I think you'll probably hear more details about that as well. So again, köszönöm szépen, and here is my email address. If you happen to be a developer, like working in stablecoins, crypto assets, email me. I love talking about these sort of things, and I love collaborating with other people. Köszönöm.